To None Dare Call It Ordinary, the podcast that digs into the unusual, unorthodox, and downright unsettling beliefs found at the depths of the internet and the heights of paranoia. I'm your host, Dylan, and with me is the lascivious and lunarian Brent.
What does that mean?
So lascivious means you're all into having, sexy times.
Yeah.
Lunarian, I was going to use lunar, referencing your newfound lack of hair.
Yes.
A bit of the irony. But I didn't like the lack of a second symbol there, so I used Lunarian, which is a race of being from Final Fantasy IV.
Oh.
So,
nice.
Using that video game knowledge to my syllabic benefit.
Nice.
Is what I am doing today. And that is what you are.
Yes, that's right. I did chop all my hair off. It's gone. I am
you look
now
beautiful. You look lovely.
Thank you. I was talking to my mother about it, and I said, yes, I've cut my hair. And I was like, yeah, I'm now bald. Completely bald. Just went one extreme to the other.
Yeah, you should just go all the way.
Bicked it completely. Yep. So what holiday is it today? What day is this? Huh?
It's Veterans Day.
Oh.
Or the day after Veterans Day.
Yeah, it's confusing.
I was pleasantly surprised because I did not have to pay for parking
that's
today,
nice.
Which was one of the benefits.
Yep. It's also the day Trump wanted to have that military parade, but ended up backing out. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he was.
There's so much else going on 24/7 that it's easy to forget these ill-gotten plans that didn't go through.
True. And it was $80 million, so that was probably good that happened.
Ooh. That's too much.
Yeah,
I'm going to say that's too much.
It's a bit much. So what are we talking about today, huh?
We've come to the end, at least for us. This is our fourth installment of our Russia investigation series, and we're bringing it to the end. So we'll be covering the events from December 1st, 2017. This is when Flynn entered a guilty plea, and we're going to cover right up to, I think, literally today.
Yeah, and unfortunately, not to spoil it, but Mueller did not conclude his investigation, so it's not a finality thing for our podcast, but
it's a cliffhanger.
It could, it's a cliffhanger.
There's going to be a cliffhanger, and hopefully we'll find out soon. I know lots of people are raring to hear those indictments, which that's part of what we'll talk about at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
We could literally get news while we're recording this. That's where things stand. We'll have to check Twitter and the mainstream media once we get to the end of this thing just to make sure nothing insane happened. That Mueller turns out is actually a wizard.
Yeah,
and has been doing some kind of magical reconnaissance this whole time. Who knows? There's all sorts of big news stories that could be coming up.
Yep.
So, once again, December 1st, 2017 is where we are beginning. And as we talked about last week, this is when Flynn entered a guilty plea. And then let's see, not much else happened in December.
Just
but
my birthday,
we do have,
but whatever. No big deal.
Your birthday month is December?
It's December 5th, so.
Oh, very nice. But the next day.
Yes.
After your birthday, on December 6th, this is when, in a closed session, Donald Trump Jr. testifies to the House Intelligence Committee. He says to the committee that he spoke to his father regarding a June 2016 meeting at Trump Tower with a Russian lawyer just 2 days after the New York Times had reported about this meeting on July 8th, 2017. And we've talked about this Trump Tower meeting, as it's been called, over and over again. Trump Jr. declines to disclose the content of the conversation he had with his father.
That's good enough for me, honestly. Also, clearly, you need a back channel to get to a closed session, I think. So just so we're clear on how this works here.
Yeah, you can't do the front channel, and so he needs to secure the back channel to discuss the conversation that happened in another back channel.
Right. In a closed session. Yeah.
You can go from front channel to back channel. You can't go the opposite way. You can't disclose a back channel communication in a merely front channel one. Also, just want to mention how this is continuing the trend of disclosing that a meeting took place and then only later disclosing what actually was discussed, which is just a common theme.
It's a tradition at this point.
It's a tradition. Yeah. It's an American tradition. And we should respect that, I think.
We should, yeah. So now we're into January. So I guess Christmas came and went. No one cares because the war on Christmas destroyed it anyway.
Our year. We've finally gotten to where we're closer to us right now.
So January 3rd. Somehow we're all still here and it's a new year.
Still alive.
Still
great
alive.
News.
2018. Same year. So Paul Manafort files a lawsuit against the Department of Justice, which requests that the court set aside the criminal charges brought against him by the special counsel's office. So according to factcheck.org, quote, the suit alleges that Mueller's investigation is completely unmoored from the special counsel's original jurisdiction to investigate any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Donald Trump. The charges brought against Manafort stem from unrelated decade-old business dealings that had no connection whatsoever to the 2016 presidential election or even to Donald Trump, the suit states. So the Department of Justice called the suit frivolous. Frivolous. And just so we're clear, this suit we're talking about here is the lawsuit, not the ostrich skin suit. So just, we want to
definitely
make sure that
you got to keep those. I mean, because there's nothing frivolous about an ostrich skin suit.
That's right. There's nothing at all.
Because this has come up, and it will come up later in this episode, if I'm remembering correctly, the legitimacy of the Mueller investigation, whether or not Mueller is going too far. I just think back to the investigation of Clinton.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about Bill Clinton here, not that email stuff. That's just new business. I'm talking about the OG Clinton investigation.
Yes.
Which a lot of people don't remember. That started with Whitewater. That started with investigating kind of shady real estate deals in Arkansas, ended with an investigation of Bill Clinton lying about getting a blowjob from an intern.
Yeah, that took a left turn.
If you can connect those things legitimately,
that's true.
I think we can connect Russian influence and Russian collusion amongst the Trump campaign and Manafort being really into Russia in a very illegal way. Yeah. I think there's a pretty short bridge between those two facts that is perfectly legitimate to talk about.
Yeah, and in a world where, you're in the FBI and you're looking at something and investigating, I'm sure you're not just going to be like, well, never mind that one, and just move on.
Yeah,
just going to ignore that one.
Yeah, no, you got to get it all. It's like if you're a dentist and they find, gum disease or something. They don't just, they didn't mention this part of the gum.
Right. You were in here only for a cleaning, damn it. So January 8th, according to the New York Times, the president's attorneys and the Mueller team discuss again the possibility of the president testifying.
Another American tradition at this point.
Yes, always talking about the testifying. Never talking during, well, I don't want to spoil it. We'll see.
Ooh, spoilers.
Does the president testify? Okay. So sometime in mid-January, Ralph Nader, just kidding, George Nader, who was, remember him. Who was involved in the Seychelles meeting on January 11th, begins to cooperate with Mueller.
Yeah, and this is with Eric Prince. I think we mentioned this fairly briefly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure if we covered this, but I can refresh here. So Eric Prince, a Trump associate and Blackwater founder, met with Kirill Dmitriev.
Sounds right to me.
A Russian wealth fund manager with ties to Vladimir Putin. So they met in Seychelles, which is an island chain off the coast of East Africa. When the story first broke, the meeting's purpose was revealed to be to set up a back channel. Oh yeah, you knew that was coming. So we'll just move on past that through the back channel between Russian officials and the Trump team. So Prince denied the support and in November testified under oath to Congress that he traveled to Seychelles to follow up on a business venture, quote, with potential customers from the United Arab Emirates, who suggested afterwards that he met with Dmitriev. He claimed it was impromptu and just a short sit-down at a hotel bar, insisting he did not travel there on behalf of the Trump team. George Nader is the cooperating witness who claims that the meeting was pre-planned to set up communications with Trump and Moscow.
In all fairness, it does seem if you're going to set up a back channel, you do it at a short sit down at a hotel bar. That seems like a good place.
Exactly. 30 minutes
That's
tops.
The origin of the back channel is in a hotel
That's
bar.
Where it began,
That's where all this is happening.
January 24th. Attorney General Jeff Sessions was interviewed by the special counsel's office the week prior as part of its Russia investigation.
Good for him.
January 25th, factcheck.org, quote, Trump's private attorney, John Dowd, releases a one-page memo that says the Trump campaign turned over 1.4 million pages of documents to the special counsel's office, and the White House provided over 20,000 pages. Yeah, ooh. Comey's ears are burning right now. So
burning, and the Senate and House Intelligence and Judiciary committees are just salivating. I mean, we were talking about thousands of pages, 1.4 million.
That's
amazing.
amazing.
They're going to blow it all in 2 weeks, unfortunately. Yeah. That's the problem with addiction.
Yep. So the memo also says that the special counsel's office to date has interviewed more than 20 White House staffers, 17 Trump campaign workers, and 11 others affiliated with Trump campaign.
Beautiful.
Yep. And a partridge in a pear tree. So, all right. So January
20 White House staffers, 17 Trump campaign workers, and 11 others affiliated with the Trump campaign.
January 29th, Trump's attorneys, Dowd and Sekulow, write in a letter to special counsel Robert Mueller that the president, quote, dictated a July 8th, 2017 statement to the New York Times about the June 2016 Trump Tower meeting between Russian lawyer, you know her, Natalie Veselnitskaya.
There you go. First attempt
First time.
of this episode. Probably won't be the last, but you hit the nail
These
on the
Russians and their names. And top Trump campaign aides. So, that's officially the most confusing sentence of all time, actually, if you go back
there's
there.
A lot of dates.
The letter says, quote, you have received all the notes, communications, and testimony indicating that the president dictated a short but accurate response to the New York Times article on behalf of his son, Donald Trump Jr. This mission contradicts statements made by the previous year by Sekulow and White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders that the president did not dictate the letter. So
this is strange. So you're telling me that they said something now, which entails that something they said before was false, which is pretty rare.
Strangely. Yeah, it's the first time I think we've seen this so far.
Yeah. All right, moving on to February. So February 2nd.
So another day, another memo. It's the memo life. Comey knows.
Comey knows all about those memos.
Does.
Typewritten in your vehicle. A memo is released by the House Intelligence Committee written by the Republican committee staff that accuses the FBI of political bias. The memo states that the federal law enforcement officials abused their authority when they sought court approval to surveil a foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign
and red bucket hat wearer
Carter Page. All right, so Trump approved the release of this memo despite the FBI's objections. The FBI said, quote, as expressed during our initial review, we have grave concerns about material omissions of fact that fundamentally impact the memo's accuracy.
It's like typical deep state talk to me.
Yeah. These fucking coastal
I miss the days when
elites.
Republicans respected the FBI. I need to recalibrate and go watch some Dale Cooper on Twin Peaks and remember some things.
It is a weird...
It's just strange.
This is the law and order party.
Right.
And FBI, they're pretty big in that law and order game.
Right. For all my life, since I was a child, and I'm not young anymore.
2 years ago, it's just the deep state now.
All the people I knew when I was Republicans were very, very pro law of order. So I don't know what's going on.
What's going on is they've figured out the truth that the FBI is part of the deep state.
Yes, that's it. God, you're so right. It's part of that dip.
Yeah, they're part of the bean dip of the deep state.
Yep.
It's really depressing. So February 16th, a couple of weeks later, Mueller charges 3 Russian organizations and 13 Russian nationals with violating U.S. criminal laws to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential elections. The indictment states that the defendants conspired to defraud the United States. According to factcheck.org, quote, the conspiracy involved using the names of U.S. citizens and companies to illegally buy political ads on social media and stage political rallies. Some defendants also solicited and compensated real U.S. persons to promote or disparage candidates, according to the indictment. The defendants are alleged to have employed hundreds of people for its online operations, quote, ranging from creators of fictitious personas to technical and administrative support personnel with an annual budget of millions of dollars, according to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. By the way, this is trolling. This is what we're talking about. This is millions of dollars. You could be a professional troll.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Amazing. What God bless America. So by early to mid-2016, the defendants' operations included supporting Trump and disparaging Clinton, according to the indictments. Quote, some defendants posing as U.S. persons and without revealing their Russian association communicated with unwitting individuals associated with the Trump campaign and with other political activists to seek to coordinate political activities, the indictment says. In announcing the indictments, Rosenstein says, quote, there is no allegation in this indictment that any American was a knowing participant in this illegal activity. There is no allegation in this indictment that the charged conduct altered the outcome of the 2016 elections. The Internet Research Agency, an online Russia propaganda operation based in St. Petersburg, was among those indicted. Quote, the indictment charges all of the defendants with conspiracy to defraud the United States, 3 defendants with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud, and 5 defendants with aggravated identity theft. Aggravated identity theft, which is pretty intense. I think that's when someone just steals your wallet.
Yeah.
That's aggravated identity theft, when they just, beat you up and take your ID.
Yeah.
Try to go to Disney World to get that senior discount. All right, so a few days later, on February 20th, a former associate at Skaden, Arps, Slate, Meager, and Flum, or Floam, anyway, the SASMF, as they are commonly known on this podcast, named Alex Vanderzwaan, who also happens to be the son-in-law of Russian oligarch German Khan.
With a confusing first name, I think.
So this character with a weird name pleads guilty to making false statements to federal investigators.
James Vanderbeek. Sorry. Is it James Vanderbeek?
No. Yeah.
Oh,
Alex
right.
Vanderzwaan, I believe. The Vanderbeek was not involved in any of these shenanigans. So Vanderzwaan admitted that he lied about conversations he had with Trump's former deputy campaign chairman Rick Gates regarding Skaden's report on Ukraine's former prime minister Yulia Tymoshenko. Vanderzwaan also, quote, deleted and otherwise did not produce emails that a law firm and or special counsel's office requested, according to court documents.
Did someone say documents?
Documents. I deleted and otherwise did not produce. Some he deleted, some he just didn't forward. He just didn't even bother to delete them. He's like, I'm not going to forward them. So 2 days after this, on February 22nd, the Mueller team brings a second indictment, including 32 accounts of tax fraud against Rick Gates and Paul Manafort. Don't commit tax fraud. Yeah. It doesn't seem to end well. No. That's all of these cases. It's taxes and it's like wire fraud.
Yeah.
It's like you said something weird to your shady banker friend on the telephone, and that's a federal crime. And that's how it seems that's how they get all these people.
And then you lie to the FBI and commit perjury. Then lie to your FBI about your tax fraud.
Don't lie to the FBI. That's also
that is not good.
Not good. All right, so let's get into what happened with these fun indictments. So the next day, February 23rd, Rick Gates pleads guilty to conspiracy as well as making false statements to federal investigators. To rehash, Gates was originally indicted on October 30th, 2017.
Otherwise known as Halloween Eve.
Otherwise known Rick Gates Eve. So he was indicted on Halloween Eve on tax evasion and money laundering charges related to business he and his associate Paul Manafort, who we all know and love, did for a pro-Russian political party in Ukraine. Gates admitted he participated in the financial conspiracy with Manafort. Also, he admitted that he lied to prosecutors about a 2013 meeting involving Manafort and a congressman. This congressman was identified by NBC News as Representative...
Not anymore.
Oh, not anymore. Representative Dana Rohrabacher.
Yeah. Did not win.
He might eventually end up inside of a government institution. Yes. I'll put it that way, though.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe against his will, however. So Dana Rohrabacher was a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, seems like a good place for him, that chairs the panel's subcommittee on European affairs. Gates misled investigators by saying that Ukraine was not discussed at the meeting. In exchange for dropping other criminal charges, which included tax evasion and money laundering in the original indictment, Gates is cooperating with federal investigators. According to factcheck.org, quote, Mueller's team files a superseding indictment against Paul Manafort. The new charges include the allegation that Manafort, with the assistance of Gates, secretly retained a group of former senior European politicians to take positions favorable to Ukraine, including by lobbying in the United States. The indictment says, quote, the plan was for the former politicians, informally called the Habsburg Group, to appear to be providing their independent assessments of government of Ukraine actions, when in fact they were paid lobbyists for Ukraine. In his plea agreement, Gates acknowledges participating in that conspiracy. And then somewhere between this date and April, according to PBS, Manafort and Kilimnik allegedly attempted to tamper with witnesses involved in Mueller's case, according to Mueller's team, which is not very smart.
On top of crimes.
Yeah, spoiler alert, he got caught.
Don't tamper. Just don't tamper with witnesses.
And it was literally, I think it was literally like he sent a text message to some folks.
Yeah.
Like, one, do you think that's going to do anything? And two, just highly illegal. Right. Just clearly. Anyway, so we're going to end February a couple more days later on February 24th.
Oh, it's memo time, isn't it? Get ready.
Oh, we got another memo. So a memo
alert.
Written by the Democratic staff of the House Intelligence Committee is released.
So it's really just memos all the way down at this point.
Memos, documents, lawyers. Just
full circle everywhere.
A lot of people are employed because of this, is all I'm going to say. This is really,
it's like, this is our economy, basically.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of talk about QAnon and about the storm. And I think this is the real 4D chess going on. This is the basis of Trump's economy.
That's so true.
He's like, if I associate myself with people who are such obvious criminals, there's so many lawyers and memo writers and clerks for congressional staff for people that this is the engine.
Right. And that's when Trump's talking about jobs and creating jobs. He's talking about this. He is. Yeah. Lawyers and clerks. Yeah.
He's at least facilitated increased work hours. I mean, that is just true.
Overtime is huge. Yeah.
A lot of late nights due to his actions and the actions of those he involves himself with. Yeah. Certainly true. So this memo was released to counter the Republican committee staff memo released February 2nd that stated that the DOJ and FBI abused their authority when seeking court approval to conduct surveillance on Carter Page. The Democratic memo contends the FBI and DOJ officials did not abuse the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, process, saying the DOJ, quote, cited multiple sources to support the case for surveilling Page, many of which we talked about at length on this very series. I'm no lawyer, but from my vantage point, that seems like a good idea.
Yeah. So March 12th. Yep, we actually got to skip a couple weeks, actually, because what are we in? We were in March, or February 24th, and now we're at March 12th.
Yeah, I know. That's a big gap.
Yeah. I mean, scandals surely happen, but I guess no Russian-related ones. So
we can't cover all of them, because otherwise it would be like a minute-by-minute series, which we just can't do. It's nice not having it. Oh, it's the first, and then the second, and then the third, and then the fourth. It's nice. Get a few, everybody needs a vacation.
So the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence states it has ended its Russian investigation. According to factcheck.org, quote, the Republicans on the committee release a one-page summary of their draft report. It says, quote, we have found no evidence of collusion, coordination, or conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians. The full report has not been released yet. So,
as per American tradition.
Right. So there's lots to say here. I mean, first, since when do we transition to summaries? I don't know what happened to memos. Let's keep it with the memos, guys. Come on.
I think you write the summary before you write the memo,
right?
And then the memo you write before you write the document, and then the document comes before the report. I think that's
so
the
you
order.
Memo, right? So
summary, memo,
you start
document,
the memo
report.
in your car. That's where it begins, obviously, and then yeah. Okay.
The summary, so you would write the summary just on the back of a napkin. Then you go back to the car, you type it up, that's the memo.
Right, okay.
And then you get, fact checkers, create a document, and then you get a whole committee together, and that's when you get a report.
Okay. Let's solve there it is. March 16th, Andrew McCabe, the FBI director, is fired officially due to actions connected to the Clinton investigation.
Oh, man. He did it all wrong.
Yeah, we all know how much this administration especially hates treating Hillary Clinton unfairly. I want to get
Trump
that. That's
doesn't like others being in the spotlight for treating Clinton unfairly. He can't. He's got to take all that energy for himself.
So, however, did I say McCabe?
You did say McCabe.
That kind of makes sense.
Which I kept because I didn't say anything because I thought, that sounds about right.
We'll keep it then.
Andrew McCabe, FBI director.
Should have released this on Halloween. Damn it. All right.
Man. That's going to be my next year's Halloween costume. Andrew McCabe, FBI director.
All right. However, McCabe asserts he is fired due to the Russia investigation.
I don't believe it.
No.
This is a man who was fired from the FBI. I mean, I'm not going to believe a word he says.
Exactly. March 17th, John Dowd, Trump's personal attorney, says he hopes Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein shuts down the Mueller investigation.
I wonder why.
I don't know. I don't get it. March 18th, Vladimir Putin, quote unquote, is elected to 6 more years into office.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yep. That's, end quotes.
And if you are listening to this in Russia, you might want to delete that part so you don't get thrown in prison.
That's right.
Public service announcement.
March 20th, Trump's staff warns Trump to not congratulate Vladimir Putin on his quote unquote election victory. Trump congratulates Putin on election victory. So
I think it's fine because the staff said don't congratulate him on his quote-unquote election victory, but Trump congratulated him on his election victory.
That's
so I
true.
think that's fine.
That's true. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, he got, confused with all the quotes.
Yes. And, I personally agree with Corey Lewandowski's book title, Let Trump Be Trump. Because the real problem, I think, is that he's being held back, if I can just be so bold to say such a thing.
Be bold. That's what this podcast is all about.
Let's let Trump be Trump, On March 22nd, remember John Dowd, Trump's personal attorney?
Yeah, I do. He, I believe just a week prior to this, he hoped that the Mueller investigation would end. What's he up to on the 22nd?
Well, on this date, he resigns. So there's...
Oh. So he just said that before just because he was done working. Yes. It's like, I need a vacation. And then he just floats that out there, like as a last-ditch attempt. Maybe he'll just do it. Just a weird... just caught him on a weird day, this John Dowd guy, he's all right, I'm going to do it for him. And then he doesn't, of course, and I need to get out of here. I'm sick of dealing with this.
March 28th, from the PBS timeline, quote, Department of Justice Inspector General launches investigation of FBI, DOJ, and possible abuse of FISA surveillance powers, including with the Carter Page wiretaps. So the DOJ investigates the DOJ.
Man.
And what have we learned so far? Always, always, always investigate the investigators. Lawyer up the lawyers and memo the memos.
You gotta do it.
You do it and you do it.
Who investigates the investigators?
Really?
And then you ask that question every time. And then that's exactly all you do. You just are in your little circle of investigations. Also, just this Carter Page guy, just let him go. Yeah. I don't see there's a lot of... This guy seems kind of like small potatoes in the Trump world. I don't know why I guess this is something I just don't get. I mean, I guess maybe they think he knows something or it could be useful to the Mueller campaign, but a lot of people are dying on the Carter Page hill.
Yes. I think it was David Frum. I read some tweet by David Frum talking about him just being like, is this really the hill the Republicans want to die on, is Carter Page?
Yeah, it's just bizarre. And, out of all this stuff, I get the Manaforts, I get the Cohens, I get, the Flynns, but it's just a bizarre... I think the Battle of Bucket Hat Hill, I believe is
that's the official title.
100 years from now, a folk song will be written about it, and that's what it'll be named. All right, we're going to April, which is my birth month. We're finally getting to me. So April 3rd, Amy Berman Jackson, a U.S. district judge, sentences Alex Vanderzwaan to 30 days in prison. This is the first sentence to be handed down in the Russian investigation.
Woohoo! Break open the champagne! Sorry, I meant vodka. Sorry.
Oh, vodka. Well, I can't have any of those things, so it doesn't matter to me. The next day, April 4th, Felix Sater, who worked on Russian deals with Trump, is interviewed by the Senate Intelligence Committee. Then on April 6th, according to PBS, quote, the U.S. newly sanctions 7 Russian oligarchs, including Oleg Deripaska, who formerly worked with Manafort, and Viktor Weckelsberg, who was at Trump's inauguration. I believe we covered that. That was one of the... There was a lot of going on in the inauguration, because there was a lot of multitasking.
Exactly.
And then a few days later, on April 9th, the FBI raids Michael Cohen's home, hotel room, and office, seizing records.
Wah, wah.
Reports indicate that Cohen is under investigation for campaign finance and bank fraud.
Oh, and Trump has a public freakout via Twitter as per usual.
Again, another of our sacred American traditions.
Hotel room.
Hotel room, yeah. Home and hotel room. I'm glad he's got both. That's kind of nice. Can't rent a second apartment, just the hotel room. It's, keep it on the down low. So then a week later, on April 16th, President Trump halts plans for economic sanctions on Russia.
No big deal there. Go ahead.
No big deal. We didn't need them.
No.
Let's just move on.
Exactly.
The next day, April 17th, Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader, in case you didn't know who that asshole was, says he will not allow a floor vote on a bill to protect Special Counsel Mueller.
Okay, and deep breaths, everyone.
April 19th.
Finally, we're back to memo talk.
Finally back to memos this whole time. So on April 19th, the Department of Justice turns over 7 memos that Comey wrote to Congress. I like that he wrote them to Congress. Dear Congress, this is James Comey. I'm in the back of my Kia, and I feel you need to know. These were the memos Comey wrote immediately after each encounter with Trump from January 6th, 2017 to April 11th, 2017. And I wish we knew this little detail sooner, that these were to Congress. It's a beautiful thing. It makes it a lot more romantic, and it really it adds a whole dimension to that thing.
Yeah.
I think dishonest loyalty was the other the title for the romantic fan fiction that we're going to not look up in any shape or form. But yeah, Congress is involved in that directly. So wow. Steamy.
It's getting steamier and steamier.
Steamier and steamier. So April 24th, I celebrated another year of not dying. And then the next day, April 25th, Cohen asserts his Fifth Amendment rights not to testify in the Stormy Daniels, a.k.a. Stephanie Clifford case.
Which is how most people know her.
Yeah, so it really should be a.k.a. Stormy Daniels, but yeah, you know what I mean.
I know. I like it better this way. So, yeah, that's cool. So that was a good time.
Yeah, it's a good time. Good, I'm glad, this is why we have a constitution. I like the rule of law. So, Cohen, go ahead. The next day, April 26th, in a Fox News interview, President Trump rails against the FBI, DOJ, and Mueller. He also confirms Cohen worked for him, but was in a, quote, tiny fraction of his legal work.
Yep, there's Lion Ted, Crooked Hillary, and who can forget the endearing term Tiny Cohen?
Tiny Cohen. He's so small. So cute.
Like Tiny Tim. That's I'm picturing him.
Like Tiny Tim, but in jail.
Yeah.
April 27th, the next day, according to factcheck.org, quote, the Republican-controlled House Intelligence Committee issues a majority report on its Russia investigation, along with a 98-page dissent from the Democrats. Both reports were redacted to protect classified information. You could see how deep their voracious need for documents is. They had to produce two different reports. Ostensibly, they had different opinions about this and all this kind of stuff, but you know why they're doing it. They just want more paper out there. The majority report says, quote, in the course of witness interviews, reviews of document productions, and investigative efforts extending well over a year, the committee did not find any evidence of collusion, conspiracy, or coordination between the Trump campaign and the Russians. While the committee found that several of the contacts between Trump associates and Russians, of their proxies, including WikiLeaks, were ill-advised, the committee did not determine that Trump or anyone associated with him assisted Russia's active measures campaign.
Good enough for me.
For the sake of argument, let's hear a bit from the minority report, which says that Democratic members, quote, remain committed to continuing the investigation. It says, quote, although important evidence has been found on the issues of collusion and obstruction, much work remains on these and other vital lines of inquiry and key unanswered questions.
So it's a wash. Nothing matters. Yay.
Until, early next year.
Right. Good point.
And then we're going to end April on April 30th, where the New York Times reports that the special counsel's office has, quote, at least 4 questions on an exhaustive array of subjects he wants to ask President Trump to learn more about his ties to Russia and determine whether he obstructed the inquiry itself. The list of questions were published by the Times.
I just assume it's published along with the crossword puzzle, do it yourself. So, May 2nd, Emmett Flood, a.k.a. Imminent Flood, replaces
he's
Ty
never
Cobb.
Heard that joke.
Replaces Ty Cobb, but not the old-timey baseball player, Ty Cobb.
I assumed it was I assumed it was old-timey baseball player Ty Cobb.
Yeah, as a ghost. So I know it feels sometimes like we're traveling back in time here in this country lately, but it's not that Ty Cobb, okay? So it's he does have a fantastic mustache. So look it up.
Oh, he does? I haven't seen his mustache.
Cards worth a lot of money. It's a good one. Yeah. All right, May 16th, 2018, obviously, still the same year, the Senate Intelligence Committee concludes that Russia tried to interfere in the 2016 election to help Donald Trump win.
I didn't see that coming.
I didn't either, yeah.
I thought, they were, it was adoptions, I think. That's what they were concerned.
I thought it was actually going to be Turkey, to be honest with you.
I was thinking Latvia.
Yeah.
One of those Balkan countries.
Right.
Yugoslavia and all that.
Nowhere, just boom. The Senate Judiciary Committee releases transcripts of interviews of the 2016 Trump Tower meeting with Russian lawyer.
Great. More documents.
Next up, May 17th. Reuters reports, quote, Manafort's ex-son-in-law, Jeffrey Yohai, agreed to a plea deal in a real estate case and may have to cooperate with Mueller.
It's, the apple does not fall too far from the father-in-law tree.
Yes. May 20th, Trump demands that the DOJ investigate whether the FBI or the DOJ spied on his campaign for political purposes. he tweets, quote, "Somebody look into whether or not the FBI, DOJ infiltrated or surveilled the Trump campaign for political purposes, and if any such demands or requests were made by people within the Obama administration."
Boom. Demand it.
Demand it.
That's what you have to do when you're, in charge of a branch of the government, is you have to demand they do things.
You always do.
That's normally.
Yeah, I personally didn't think I'd see the day that a president would be making demands on Twitter.
Yeah, and just making demands. It's just a weird, it's like my employee.
Yeah.
If I have an employee and I say, I demand you, clean the bathroom.
Right.
Someone vomited in there, and this is a very respectable bookstore. It's just a weird relationship. You just say, hey, do it. You don't have to, I demand it.
Right.
Also, because Trump is so weird with the capitalization, so Trump campaign is capitalized, that makes sense, but he also capitalized political purposes. So it looks like there's just an organization called the Trump Campaign for Political Purposes. Which when I first read that, I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm like,
oh man. Yeah.
He's got that. He capitalizes stuff like he's a 16th century philosopher. Like that's how, like just every other, this is an important word, better capitalize it.
I just like how he's just making, I do love the command into this, like the ether, like he's like, look into whether or not, like, who's he speaking with? Who's looking at this like, all right, I'm on it, sir. Like, okay. All right. So May 21st, which is my dad's birthday. And, also the Justice Department makes an announcement that it has asked the department's inspector general to conduct a review at the president's request. The deputy attorney general
he's requesting it this time. That's kind of nice. He's not demanding. He's requesting.
The Deputy Attorney General overseeing the Russia investigation, Rod Rosenstein, stated, quote, "If anyone did infiltrate or surveil participants in a presidential campaign for inappropriate purposes, we need to know about it and take appropriate actions." I think the wheels are coming off.
The wheels are definitely coming off.
Yeah, and I think Rosenstein needs to just demand it on Twitter, maybe get some stuff done finally.
Yeah, that's how you just demand everyone. Because that's the thing with the Trump demand. He wasn't explicitly talking to the FBI or the DOJ. He just said, look into, he was literally all of America and all of the world. He was commanding us. And so, that's the Rosenstein needs to take the Trump approach in that regard, I think.
He sure does. He does. So May 30th, Trump tweets out to the world that he wishes he had picked someone other than Jeff Sessions as his attorney general. So, obviously Trump is still pissed about him recusing himself. But again, you cannot go back on a recusal. I don't know how many times we have to talk about this. It just isn't proper. Also, spoiler alert, Trump gets his wish after all. All he needs to do is to lose control of one of the chambers of Congress. That's all you need.
Zing!
Zing-a-zing.
Just
a little bit of the foreshadowing there.
A little bit of foreshadowing. Sessions is not a figure that deserves any kind of sympathy, I think.
No.
I mean, his record speaks for itself, but this is painful to read.
It is.
Just, man. It's rough. It's hard to not be like, damn, this is all right.
I know, it's like, how do you go to work the next day? It would be like your boss being like, I need anybody other than you. And they're like, hey, just the next day, like, how you doing? Like at the cooler, water cooler.
That's rough. Awkward.
So, May 31st, despite saying the exact opposite in an interview with Lester Holt after he fired Comey, Trump tweets out, quote, he never fired James Comey because of Russia. Of
course he didn't.
No.
It was because of the Turks.
That's right.
Or the Latvians. I can't remember which we decided. All right, so that's it for May. So now we're barreling into June. So starting June 2nd.
Again.
Oh, the half birthday again. That's how
coming up. It's coming up.
That's how space-time is being woven around this issue. Is just birthdays just keep coming back up and up and up. So on June 2nd, the New York Times publishes a January letter by Trump's lawyer asserting obstruction of justice charges could not apply to the president. This letter also indicates that Trump dictated the statement by his son, Donald Trump Jr., regarding the 2016 Trump Tower Russia lawyer meeting. And I believe in the part of the letter when he talked about how Trump could not obstruct justice, he said because, as in the legal text, Judge Dredd, I am the law. I believe that was the legal reasoning.
And at this point, this whole like Russia, the Trump Tower meeting should just be like a holiday. Like, it's just celebrate it.
Make the Trump Tower meeting not a holiday again. I think that should be the campaign slogan going forward.
That's a good hat.
Yeah, it's too much to fit on a hat. So speaking of obstruction of justice being something that Trump just could not do by definition, Trump also tweeted on June 4th that he has the right to pardon himself and that the appointment of Mueller was unconstitutional.
I mean, because if I know anything about Trump, it's his deep love and affection for constitutional law.
Yeah, he's something of an amateur constitutional lawyer.
He is. People don't know that about him, and also his love for the Holy Bible, especially 2 Corinthians.
So on June 7th, President Trump says that the G7 summit nations, quote, should let Russia come back in. And I remember I was really upset about this because when you're faced with all this chicanery around you 24/7, you have to like focus on things that don't really matter. And so there was a group called the G8 that Russia was a part of. Then Russia left and they became the G7 because there's 7 of them now. So you can't let Russia into the G7. There's 7 of them. That's what the 7's for. Does that matter at all? No. Did it make me mad? Yes. Because my brain's got to do something to just interfere with the constant stream of noise coming into it.
I think it was Bill Maher's show a couple of weeks back or last week or something, and he was having this moment where he's like, I am so stressed out by the news nonstop. It's happening all the time. It's like, I'm suddenly just now watching NBA. He's like, I've just been watching the NBA, looking at the scores and highlights. I had never done that before. Just randomly getting into things that, now I'm into golf all of a sudden. Something other than this. Which, just wait till we get done with this one in our next episode.
Yeah, we'll give people a break because we also need a break from all this nonsense. And the next series, no spoiler, but don't hold your breath or anything, but it's going to be a little sillier than this. That's all we're going to say about that. So the next day after Trump made an incoherent request, on June 8th, a third superseding indictment against Manafort is issued by the special counsel. This indictment adds an obstruction of justice charge for alleged witness tampering. Also, it accuses Konstantin V. Kilimnik, Manafort's aforementioned business associate, with obstructing justice. A few days later, on June 11th, the U.S. issues new sanctions on a few Russian companies and individuals for cyber attacks against U.S. energy and other interests. They're diversifying now. You can't just, politics got to get into the energy too.
Yeah, and at this point they need to have like Marvel needs to have just like the Obstructing Justice League, like just a team of obstructors.
Oh man, R.I.P. Stan Lee.
Yes.
95 years young.
Yeah.
So a few more days later, on June 15th, citing the new obstruction of justice charges, a federal judge orders Manafort to be held in federal custody until the trial begins in September. And I don't believe they allowed the ostrich suits into the prison because you will be killed immediately.
Yeah.
And then on June 18th, Trump states he, quote, feels badly for Manafort and Flynn and others in court and investigations. Trump criticizes the FBI raid on Cohen's office, saying he, quote, feels badly for him and others under prosecution. He loves to feel badly. Trump also states that Manafort only worked for him a, quote, short time in the very unimportant role of campaign chairman. Later, he defends Manafort in a tweet saying that the FBI raid of Cohen's office was wrong and that it turns out maybe he, Flynn, didn't lie.
Oh, okay.
According to PBS, quote, judge orders Manafort to jail to await trial, ending house arrest. This is due to charges of witness tampering. He could have been out with his ostrich skin suit and his reptile feet just hanging out, and he had to go to text people. This is texting, man. It leads you to jail. Don't do it.
So July 13th, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, announces the indictment of 12 members of the Russian military intelligence agency, the GRU, saying the GRU, quote, engaged in sustained effort to hack into the computer networks of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the Democratic National Committee, and the presidential campaign of Hillary Clinton. And that's not to be confused with the 2020 presidential. I'm just kidding. Oh God. Man. All right. Sorry. Moving on. And released that information on the internet under the names DC Leaks and Goosifer 2.0.
And I believe we talked about them earlier, not to be confused with Pussifer.
Yeah, much better than the Goose for 1.0. And through another entity. So here are the names of those who were indicted. And you want to do this one, Dylan?
Let's do it as the official expert on Russian name pronunciation between you and myself. I believe, been declared the expert on this. Here we go. Here is the list.
Oh my God.
And I don't care if I get these wrong, because fuck these assholes. Viktor Borisovich I'm fucking up already. Nediksho, Boris Alexeyevich Antonov, Dmitry Sergeyevich Badin,
nice.
Ivan Sergeyevich Yermakov, Alexei Viktorovich Lukashev, Sergei Alexandrovich Morgachev. Literally, this is reading that Last Empire book about the USSR. I think that's why I could do this so well. Nice. I'm not doing it as well as I am. Nikolai Yurovich Kozachek,
nice.
Pavel Vyacheslavovich Yershov,
nice.
Artem Andreevich Malishev, Alexander Vladimirovich Osadchuk, Alexei Alexandrovich Potemkin, and Anatoly Sergeyevich Kovalev.
And Bob.
Oh, Bob.
That was good. Woo-hoo.
Bob Jones. I clapped for myself.
I stood a standing ovation of one.
Wait, Bob Jones is that religious guy. Never mind. That doesn't...
No.
I just picked a goofy name out of the hat, and turns out there's a guy with a goofy name. Sorry. It's not my fault. He calls himself that.
July 16th, according to factcheck.org, quote, the Department of Justice announces the arrest of Maria Butina, a Russian national, on the charges that she conspired to act as a Russia agent to influence U.S. politics and advance Russia's interests.
Dang.
Ouch. The government says, and I have a parking ticket. The government says she, quote, worked at the direction of a high-level Russian official from as early as 2015 through at least February 2017. The official described in the Justice Department press release matches the description of Alexander Torshin, deputy governor of Russia's central bank, who was sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department in April.
And Alexander Torshin, he was convicted of turning things around.
Ah, yes.
That's a torsion joke.
Okay, so in a sworn affidavit, FBI Special Agent Kevin Helson says Butina sought, quote, to establish a, obviously, back channel.
That's the only kind there is.
Yeah, exactly. Communications for representatives of the government of Russia and American politicians in the hopes of advancing Russia's interests. She did so by trying to infiltrate organizations active in U.S. politics, including, quote, an organization promoting gun rights, which has, I don't know who that would be. So, this organization, which has been identified in media reports as, the National Rifle Association. I should have guessed that.
That's right. Okay. I remember them.
Yeah. So in Helsinki, at a joint press conference with Russian President Vladimir Putin, President Trump is asked by a reporter, quote, who do you believe? The U.S. intelligence agencies that have found Putin ordered an extensive covert campaign to assist Trump in winning the 2016 presidential election, or Putin's denial that Russia was not involved in any way.
By the way, this is the famous Helsinki press conference that we're talking about, of course.
Yeah.
This is the easiest question a politician has ever been asked in the entire history of the United States of America. I just want to make that clear before we go into how Trump approached this question.
And Trump says, drumroll, I don't see any reasons why Russia would interfere.
Oh, he got it wrong.
Oh, man.
You had a 50-50 shot here.
Yeah.
Based on Dinesh D'Souza's highly advanced understanding of probability. It's a 50-50 shot.
So Trump also says, it doesn't stop there, quote, I have confidence in both parties. I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.
Another American tradition of just the denial has to be strong and powerful. I don't even know what.
I really didn't do it.
I didn't do it. Like he's on a horse
Lording
wrestling a bear while he's doing it. I don't know what an extremely strong and powerful denial looks like.
Yeah. Putin was asked if he wanted Trump to win the presidential race against Clinton, and Putin said, quote, yes, I wanted him to win because he talked about bringing the U.S.-Russia relationships back to normal.
Back to normal, which is exactly all Putin wants.
Yes, because we all know those times when it was normal with Russia. All right, so July 17th, 2018, obviously still in 2018 somehow, Trump says he misspoke in his press conference with Putin.
Oh, thank God. We're going to clear this all up. There was something was lost in translation. We're going to figure this out.
Yeah, so he said he meant to say he didn't see why Russia, quote, wouldn't have meddled in the election. So good enough for me. Yep.
Okay.
It's always much easier to say what you need to say when you aren't in a joint press conference talking about the guy standing right next to you too. So I mean, there is that. So
that's true. I mean, but he has a lot of experience talking about himself at joint press conferences with world leaders. You think he would have the experience by now to be able to handle this misspeaking incident.
So July 27th, Special Counsel Robert Mueller and Donald Trump Jr. were spotted both holding hands. I'm joking. All right, so that's a different fan fiction. Let me start over.
That's a very different fan fiction.
Special Counsel Robert Mueller and Donald Trump Jr. were spotted both waiting for their flights this morning at the 35X gate at DCA.
And that's the title also, the 35XX gate.
So July 31st, Manafort trial begins.
Woo!
North Carolina, what's up? Special Counsel Robert Mueller, prosecutors painted former Donald Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort in opening arguments Tuesday as a man with no qualms about committing tax evasion to fund his, quote, extravagant lifestyle by hiding at least $15 million in income earned from consulting work in Ukraine.
I mean, those ostrich farms don't pay for themselves.
So true.
Those are niche products. You can't. Right. What do you expect him to do?
Can we get some like vegan? Like, what about people that are vegan? You know, they don't want to have like harm an ostrich, like skin it alive. Can we get some vegan ostrich skin suits around here?
I'm sure we can. There's like leather and stuff like that. Okay. There's fake leathers.
Something that looks like an ostrich skin because that's cool, obviously. But not with the suffering. So
I'm sure people with more and more people with money are vegans nowadays. So I'm sure someone's working on it as we speak. So going into August, and we're going to the middle, August 13th. We're going right into the middle of the month. Right. Federal judge appointed by President Donald Trump ruled Monday that Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe is constitutional and legitimate, rejecting an effort by a Russian company accused of financing a massive political influence operation in the United States to stamp out the ongoing investigation. On August 19th, a week later, President Donald Trump's lawyer Rudy Giuliani on Sunday claimed, quote, truth isn't truth. This was a great day for America, by the way. It was, yeah. So let's do some like a background about what exactly happened. So when trying to explain why the president should not testify for special counsel Robert Mueller for fear of being trapped into a lie that could lead to a perjury charge, Giuliani said, quote, when you tell me that, he should testify because he's going to tell the truth, and he shouldn't worry. Well, that's so silly, because it's somebody's version of the truth, not the truth. This is what Giuliani told Chuck Todd on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday morning. Truth is truth, Todd responded, to which Giuliani responds, no, it isn't truth. Truth isn't truth. So yeah, truth isn't truth. Do you think that's true?
It isn't true.
Yeah, that's how true it is. It's the horseshoe theory of truth. You just go all the way to the other side. That would have been weeks in any other presidency. That's literally just a couple days. No one cares.
Yeah.
So a couple days later, on August 21st, Cohen and Manafort plead guilty.
But guilty isn't guilty, Dylan.
That's the problem. Guilty is innocent. That's how you get out of this whole thing. That's terrible. All right, so there's a lot to digest on August 21st, so let's get into it. So Paul Manafort was convicted on 8 felony counts after a trial on charges of bank and tax fraud brought by special counsel Robert Mueller. The federal judge in Alexandria, Virginia, declared a mistrial on the remaining 10 charges. But the 69-year-old Manafort still faces the prospect of spending the rest of his life in prison.
Forever separated from his favorite ostrich skins.
Oh, it's really sad. I mean, maybe they could make him can you dye them orange so you can make the prison jumper out of them? I mean, that seems like a good compromise to me. 5 of the guilty verdicts were for filing false tax documents, and the other 3 involved bank fraud and foreign bank account registration. Jurors couldn't decide on 3 counts of failure to file reports on foreign bank and financial accounts, 5 counts of bank fraud conspiracy, and 2 counts of bank fraud. And so we have a quote from Mr. Manafort's lawyer, Kevin Downing. Quote, Mr. Manafort is disappointed at not getting not guilties all the way through, or an acquittal, or hung jury on all accounts. He is evaluating all his options at this point. Which this surprises me. He was upset that he didn't get all not guilties or hung juries. I'm really glad we've got, Kevin Downing. We've got this lawyer on staff to let us know the deep truths going through Paul Manafort's mind. And then we have Michael Cohen. So Michael Cohen.
Tiny Cohen.
Tiny Cohen.
Right.
Also on Tuesday, he implicated the president in hush money payments he said were designed to sway the election as part of a plea deal he struck with federal prosecutors on fraud charges. The statement came as Cohen formally entered his plea at a Manhattan federal court in which he admitted guilt to a slate of 8 tax evasion, financial fraud, and campaign finance charges. Quote, I participated in the conduct for the purposes of influencing the election, Cohen said about his payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels and ex-Playboy model Karen McDougal, 2 women who claim to have had affairs with Trump in the past. Trump denies the claims.
Also, as an update here, I believe there is some new information regarding this that just
came
last week. Yeah. I'll read this. CNN headline says, a report by a Wall Street Journal says federal prosecutors have gathered evidence that shows President Donald Trump played a central role in hush money payments to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yep. So
that liberal rag, the Wall Street Journal.
Exactly. Ugh.
I liked Trump's move of insulting the appearance of Stormy Daniels, which is a weird move.
Yeah.
When
the
you
old horse
paid
face
hush money because you had an affair with them, it's a weird move.
It is.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So we're going to end August on August 24th, and what may be the biggest legal blow yet to President Donald Trump, federal prosecutors in New York have granted immunity from prosecution to Alan Weiselberger, the man who knows Trump's financial secrets, and those of his family and his global business empire. At the very least, Weiselberger, the Trump Organization's chief financial officer, has provided key information to the federal prosecutors in their case against former Trump lawyer and self-described fixer Michael Cohen and his hush money payments to 2 women during the 2016 election, according to a person familiar with the matter.
Trump is such a globalist.
Yeah, he is a globalist.
Global.
I almost want to say a globalist cuck. I'm not going to go that far yet.
Right.
I'm going to give him a couple more weeks
to really... global business interests. What a globalist.
We don't need that.
So, September?
We're on to September.
All right.
That's almost now.
Almost now. September 7th. This is when, according to unofficial DOJ regulations, Mueller would maintain radio silence regarding findings about the investigation.
Yeah, there's a kind of like an unofficial rule that any kind of investigations that have potential political consequences, you don't reveal those 2 months before the election.
James Comey. September 14th, Paul Manafort agrees to cooperate with special counsel Robert Mueller under a plea deal. So, the deal dismisses deadlocked charges against Manafort from an earlier bank and tax fraud trial in Virginia, but only after, quote, successful cooperation with Mueller's probe into the Russia election interference and whether the Trump campaign coordinated with Moscow on its efforts. So the U.S. District Court Judge Amy Berman Jackson said Manafort is agreeing to, quote, cooperate fully and truthfully, which is always good, with the investigation.
It's not just full cooperation. He's also got to tell the truth, which is always, always a bummer.
Yeah. Separately, the agreement puts a 10-year cap on how long Manafort will be sent to prison in the D.C. case, involving foreign lobbying and money laundering charges, according to a source close to the case. The deal also calls for Manafort to serve time concurrently with any sentence from his convictions in Virginia, although that will ultimately be up to the judges involved. But the agreement will not release Manafort from jail, where he has been held since Mueller's team added witness tampering charges during the run-up to the long-time lobbyist trial.
Yeah, we just talked about that earlier about how if you just shut his goddamn phone off, he would be out and about with his beautiful ostrich skin suits.
Manafort's sentencing will not occur until after the midterm elections. Both sides are scheduled to file a written report in his case on November 16th, although the sentencing will likely happen at a later date. Okay, now we are just like the dated TV series Lost. We're about to do some flash forwards in time. The 16th.
Flash forward.
Unless we release this after that, then that won't make sense. Okay, all right. So, Mr. Manafort has accepted responsibility, Manafort lawyer Kevin Downey told reporters after the hearing.
By the way, this is Kevin. He's upset he didn't get off Downing.
and no hung jury, nothing. So he wanted to make sure his family was able to remain safe and live a good life. He's accepted responsibility, and he's been a good boy, goddammit. And this is for conduct that leads back many years, and everybody should remember that.
Everybody should remember that. I'm beginning to think Manafort didn't have the best attorney. Considering all the lawyers involved in the story, that's saying something. It just seems like this was a long time ago. What's the big deal?
Well, this lawyer's lawyer may have had a better choice. I'm not sure. I mean, I think you go 2 lawyers down the chain, you're good. It's when you go 3 or 4 lawyers, it gets sloppy. But I mean, I guess he's the first lawyer, so.
Yeah, he really should be top notch, but he ain't. He ain't.
September 19th, Michael Flynn, President Donald Trump's former national security advisor, is set to be sentenced on December 18th, following months of delay after he pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russian officials during the transition. Jesus, what is the final season of Game of Thrones here? Why we gotta wait so long for this? Come on.
Yeah, and then he won't go to prison until 2037, I believe, is how it's going to work. We're going to be here a long, long time.
September 21st, according to the New York Times, Rosenstein suggested last year that he secretly record President Trump in the White House to expose the chaos consuming the administration, and he discussed recruiting cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Mr. Trump from office for being unfit. It's a cliffhanger. Come on.
Yeah, it's a cliffhanger. This story kind of disappeared, really.
Yeah.
But I thought it was important to include. And apparently the Rosenstein said this was sarcastic. It was kind of like, what, do you want me to wear a wire? That kind of thing. But just another footnote in the insanity of the past 2 years.
Right. So October 11th, Gates' attorney, Tom Green, filed the unopposed motion Thursday asking a federal judge to let the longtime Republican operative remove his electronic GPS monitoring device, eliminate his 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew, and allow him to more freely travel to Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C.
So finally, Gates can go to all those 3 a.m. Northern Virginia raves his friends keep telling him about. And also, yes, Gates' attorney's name is Tom Green. Truly a farce of legal proportions.
He's not a bad lawyer, even though he doesn't quite have the balls of other lawyers.
Oh,
man.
That's
too much. That shouldn't be said. Too far.
Too far.
Right. Anyway, October 15th, a federal judge on Monday approved a request to end GPS location monitoring of Rick Gates, a former Trump campaign deputy chairman who is a key cooperating defendant in special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation.
It's nice. They asked for it and they got it. It's lovely.
They got it. Yeah. U.S. District, you need to command it, but that's fine. That works too.
Yeah.
U.S. District Court Judge Amy Berman Jackson granted Gates' request, allowing him to be relieved of a bracelet that tracks his movements as he awaits sentencing and continues to meet with prosecutors. She also agreed to allow Gates, who lives in Richmond, Virginia, to travel freely in the area around his home, Northern Virginia and Washington, and to end a nightly curfew.
Yeah, so there was like an additional detail here because before when I was reading the stories about him filing this motion to, end the curfew and to remove the GPS and all this kind of stuff, it just said Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. Those were the places he wanted to travel to. And then here they explicitly said that he was also allowed to travel in the area around his home. So just before, he just couldn't go outside at all. It was like, I imagine he got out of a lot of yard work that way, though. So that must be nice. Like, sorry, honey, can't travel freely in the area around my home.
October 17th, a federal judge rejected Paul Manafort's request to wear a professional suit during a hearing later this week about his sentence, noting the former Trump campaign chairman is now a felon who has lost the right to wear street clothes in all his court proceedings.
I'm not really sure his ostrich skin suits are street clothes.
What are street clothes? Like, how would you define
I don't know,
this?
but I think the ostrich skin suit, that's a little too
Certainly
advanced. I think there's a level of classiness that goes beyond street clothes. Also, I didn't realize us non-felons explicitly had the right to wear street clothes. There's already, so in Florida, they're re-enfranchising felons so they could vote. I say let them wear suits too.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone should be able to wear a suit.
That's right.
So something else started on October 17th. There's been a lot of wacky stuff, and this is something that just happened It's fun. It's a good note to basically end on in these 4 episodes of just raving lunacy. Here's what happened. This started October 17th, give or take, is that several journalists received emails from a person claiming to be named Lorraine Parsons that asserted conservative lobbyist Jack Burkman had hired a man, Jacob Wohl's firm, Surefire Intelligence, to offer her more than $20,000 to sign an affidavit falsely accusing Mueller of sexual misconduct and workplace harassment. Just a little, so Jack Burkman is a conservative conspiracy theorist, which we'll talk about later. And then Jacob Wohl, people thought he was a financial genius because he literally ran a hedge fund when he was a teenager. I think he's 20 or 21 right now.
Jesus. It
turns out he was being fraudulent and is now banned from ever trading futures ever again. So maybe not such a genius. But these are the cast of characters just to you start off this whole insanity.
Also, this is like a Me Too moment, but it's like more like Me Too with a question mark. Like
Me Too? Me Too?
Me Too? I'm what? Who? What?
So this person who referred to themselves as Lorraine Parsons told the reporters that she had worked with Mueller at the law firm Pillsbury, Madison, and Sutro in 1974, and that the man from Surefire had asked her to falsely accuse Mueller of engaging in misconduct during that time. Now, if I remember correctly, I believe Madison and Sutro focused on white-collar crime, while Pillsbury focused on white bread crime. Get it? Oh!
That's good.
I love that bakery-based humor. So it turns out that Mueller did work at Pillsbury in 1974, but the firm told reporters that they had no record of any Lorraine Parsons ever working there.
So, okay, let me get this right. So this is a direct statement from the Doughboy? Or
no, it's one of his minions, I believe. I believe the Pillsbury Doughboy has minions, not associates per se. Again, the quote-unquote Parsons declined reporters' requests to speak on the phone, and none of the reporters published the story until the alleged scheme became evident. This didn't become public knowledge yet on October 17th. This was still just random reporters were kind of getting these weird emails they didn't really know what to do with. What's interesting is that initially Jacob Wohl denied being involved with Surefire Intelligence at all. From NBC News, quote, Wohl declined to comment on his involvement with Surefire Intelligence. However, his email is listed in the domain records for Surefire Intelligence's website, and calls to a number listed on the Surefire Intelligence website went to a voicemail message that provided another phone number listed in public records as belonging to Jacob Wohl's mother. Wohl stopped responding to NBC News after being told Surefire's official phone number redirects to his mother's voicemail.
He is currently grounded, but we'll keep you updated on this story, obviously.
Now, all of this kind of came to a head on November 1st, and this is when they had a press conference. They said that Jack Burkman and Jacob Wohl had a press conference. They said, we're going to present an accuser, someone who is going to accuse Robert Mueller of sexual impropriety.
I just imagine Mueller watching this, by the way, just like eating popcorn, like, wow, see what this is.
Yeah, because eventually, once reporters kind of figured out what happened, they let the special counsel know, and the special counsel just told the FBI, demanded the FBI kind of investigate this and all that kind of stuff. There's an NBC News story about this press conference, and there's no way to just summarize it. I'm going to read the whole thing. There's no other way to really approach this.
Definitely.
So here we go. So this is an article by Brandy Zadrozny from NBC News. Jacob Wohl, a pro-Trump fan of conspiracy theories, and Jack Burkman, a conservative lobbyist and radio host, stood in front of a half-full room of reporters and activists at a D.C. area Holiday Inn Thursday to detail their allegations of sexual misconduct against Robert Mueller, the special counsel probing Russian interference in the 2016 election. The woman who they said has made those allegations, a Los Angeles native in her 30s, was slated to attend the news conference and give her own account. But, Wohl said, she feared for her life and on arriving in Washington, quote, panicked and boarded a flight to another location. Burkman promised she would appear at another news conference in the near future, foreshadowing she didn't. Wohl and Burkman took turns speaking at the podium, detailing the allegations, complimenting each other, and defending their professional records against charges of conspiracy peddling and political bias. The conference was streamed by several reporters in the room. A pickup truck parked in the lot outside by one of the activists in attendance carried a giant inflatable rat wearing a blonde Trump toupee. Earlier this week, several journalists reported on Twitter that they had received suspicious emails from a woman claiming someone had offered to pay her for making sexual misconduct allegations against Mueller. The journalist said those offers had come from Surefire Intelligence, a company NBC News connected to Jacob Wohl through telephone and domain records, which is what we've already talked about. Their claims were later bolstered by a second woman who came forward with an email offering similar payments in exchange for smearing Mueller, signed by a Surefire agent. Burkman opened the news conference by addressing the controversy. None of this is true, Burkman said of the allegations he and Wohl had been involved in a plot. There were no offers of payment, there was no wrongdoing, there was no bribery, there was nothing illegal or untoward or unethical that took place here, Wohl said. Also, Wohl's fly was down during this whole press conference, just to let you know. So the special counsel's office asked the FBI to investigate the matter last week, after learning of the alleged plot to smear Mueller. Burkman and Wohl said they had not been contacted by the FBI. I don't think the Bureau would embarrass itself by calling us, talking about people that don't exist, Burkman said. Wohl told reporters that the woman making allegations had contacted Wohl with claims Mueller had sexually assaulted her in a New York City hotel room in August of 2010, explaining that his, quote, default position is to, quote, not believe women who come forward with allegations of sexual assault. Wohl told reporters that he found the woman now accusing Mueller credible. Wohl said he had met her after she hired his company, Surefire Intelligence, to handle, quote, an estate matter. She later came back to him with the allegations. Little is known about the woman allegedly making these allegations. After Wohl and Burkman went back and forth on the exact spelling of her name, Wohl described her as a fashion designer who is well-educated and comes from a good family. She is a gal who has an illustrious background, and she is not politically oriented, Wohl said. We went through every meticulous detail of her allegation. We cross-referenced it with public records. We joined historical societies to get some of those records, he said. Wohl said they were in the process of going to police with the woman's allegations and would file a report by the end of the week. Burkman then stepped in and said the decision would be up to my client, and the evidence-gathering process was mid-investigation. We have tentacles out in all directions gathering evidence, Burkman said. They further claimed to have more victims whose stories they were currently vetting. Hundreds of people have contacted us this week, Wohl said. Burkman is well known for peddling baseless conspiracy theories surrounding the murder of Democratic aide Seth Rich and promoting bombshell information that never materializes. Last November, again at a Holiday Inn, Burkman sent reporters home without making good on what he had advertised as new allegations of sexual harassment against a member of Congress. Likewise, Wohl, a former hedge fund manager now banned from the financial industry, has amplified prominent conspiracy theories as a writer for the Gateway Pundit, an often inaccurate right-wing website. When Wohl and Burkman opened the floor to questions, the assembled reporters were unrestrained. Wohl was asked about his political bias, specifically for his tweets attacking Mueller, including one where he wrote the special counsel should be sent to Guantanamo Bay. Wohl said his personal opinion had no effect on his professional handling of the investigation. Other reporters questioned 20-year-old Wohl's experience in the intelligence-gathering business and why he had lied to reporters days earlier when he denied having any part in the investigation. Burkman responded, calling Wohl a child prodigy who was a clipped Mozart. At one point, Will Sommer from the Daily Beast said, quote, no one is discounting the woman's account. We didn't know her name until 20 minutes ago. We're questioning both you two very uncredible people. NBC News has elected not to publish the woman's name because she has not gone public, and because of concerns about Wohl and Burkman's credibility. When questioned about a Washington Post account of Mueller at jury duty in D.C. on the date of the alleged incident in New York, Wohl accused the paper of reporting the story to discredit the woman. When reporters laughed at Wohl's suggestion that sometimes people go to jury duty but they're also somewhere else, Wohl admonished the audience. It's not funny. It's not a laughing matter, he said. As the hour they had booked was almost up, Burkman announced he would take one more question. Someone from the back shouted, "Are you both prepared for federal prison?" No, we are not, Burkman answered. Eddie L. Kaplan contributed.
That is amazing.
And if you want just another taste, I just bumped into this, like looking up Jacob Wohl. It was like one of the first things I saw when I Googled his name. This was one of his most recent tweets, so this was literally a couple days ago. He said, most of the wildfires are started by illegal alien arsonists. One of the facts that the media loves to sweep under the rug.
It's weird to me because I just assumed they were started by Muslims who force happy holidays down your throat.
Oh, they are. The Muslims are the illegal aliens.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's the caravan.
Yeah, that's part of the caravan. The people from the Middle East coming with smallpox.
All jihadis.
Yep.
All right, and then November 6th.
Are we hearing about? Wait. Is there a caravan still coming? I haven't heard about that since November 6th.
Oh no. It was canceled after the elections.
Okay. The caravan was canceled.
Yeah, because it was clearly a Democrat ploy to embarrass the president.
I see. Okay.
And that's why, because they're trying to make it like, oh, well, they're not talking about it anymore because it's not the elections, but it's the reverse, you see.
That's right.
So November 6th, just a couple days ago with the midterm elections, I don't know if you've heard about them. It was fairly predictable based on, 538's predictions, for example, and a few other people, that the Republicans kept control of the Senate while Democrats gained control of the House.
So, November 7th, Sessions resigns.
Ooh.
It is definitely up to him. I see no other reason to believe that. So Whitacre is acting attorney general. Rosenstein no longer supervises a special counsel. So who is Whitacre? Well, he is very opinionated on what he thinks about the Mueller investigation. He has previously said this about the Mueller investigation.
He's super into it.
In a certain way. Quote, the Mueller investigation is going too far.
Oh.
Also, also saying, quote, it does not take a lawyer or even a former federal prosecutor like myself to conclude that that investigating Donald Trump's finances or his family's finances falls completely outside of the realm of this 2016 campaign and allegations that the campaign coordinated with the Russian government or anyone else. So he's also publicly defended the controversial meeting, which is now a holiday, between Donald Trump Jr. and Russians at the Trump Tower in 2016.
Yeah, it depends on whether or not we're in that alternate timeline yet. I don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I'm not a physicist, so you have to ask someone in those departments.
What else is new here? Currently, Democrats are demanding he also recuse himself, Whitacre, from the Russia investigation due to his outspoken bias. I don't see why. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell stands by his statement, though, recently, that the Mueller investigation does not need protection and refuses to let a bill go through to protect the investigation because why? Well, he says it's unnecessary.
It's such a bizarre... This is so weird to me. Yeah. Like, what harm is this gonna do?
Right. There's no reason. Like, there's no reason to think that Trump would do anything except for that Trump has said he would want to do something.
If the bill was that, like, look, in order to protect Mueller, we need to just abort every baby. Right. Then I would get, okay, there's a cost benefit here. But that doesn't seem to be the case as far as I'm concerned. So this always just it's confounded.
It's amazing. So Trump has said he will appoint a permanent attorney general down the road. So, okay. Meanwhile, Republicans control both chambers of Congress until the beginning of next year. So that's where we're at.
And yeah, I think that is it. That's the Russia investigation.
Wrapped up nice and neat.
Yeah, and so what did you learn, Brent? What did you learn most of all in this particular episode?
In this episode, I would say obviously the article stood out to me.
And that was
a very good enjoyment. And in fact, as you were reading it, I had all kinds of little jokes here and there, and I just started erasing them as you're reading it because this is just a standalone, really.
It stands on its own. It's just it was a good article. And one thing I wanted to add is just the incredible work by just so many journalists out there.
Yes.
That we got references from. Our main source was the PBS Russia timeline, which literally goes back to the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken.
Which we couldn't go that far back, or this would be...
Which,
we've been doing this from the beginning.
To talk about something else.
Yeah, it was really good. And just
so many sources from the New York Times,
Factcheck.org had a great breakdown.
Factcheck.org.
Politico, you said, was some of the last.
Politico, I used Politico. They were really helpful. A lot of their articles made up the kind of last, because the PBS timeline goes up to August 21st, I believe, is their last entry. So for the last several months, Politico was a really helpful resource to kind of get, dates and times and stuff like that. We took from CNN, we took from Wikipedia sometimes,
New York Times,
Washington Post.
Moscow Project, all those.
Moscow Project, really good website, Vox, Reuters, AP, just a really tremendous, group of folks who deserve all the resources that we can all give them and all the appreciation and thanks that we can give them. And we could not have done these episodes without their incredible hard work. And I just wanted to make that very clear. This was, we added a few chuckles to the work of these serious journalists. And so I want to give thanks to them. And so, again, that's it for Russia. Not really. That's it for us talking about it right now. We're going to move on to something
totally different.
totally different, much more light-hearted for the next few episodes, so stay tuned for that. And as always, just want to let you know that you can find us on several parts of the universe. You can find us on, we have a website, so that would be nonedarecallitordinary.com. That has links to several of the places where you can find the podcast, including SoundCloud, Stitcher, the iTunes, all that kind of stuff. You can also find us on Twitter, and that would be NDCIO, or at NDCIO. You can find us on Instagram, at None Dare Call It Ordinary, on Reddit, None Dare Call Ordinary, and also we also have a YouTube channel now, which we haven't done much with. We were able to do a live kind of midterm election stream, which I thought was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was good. And
also, I'm going to start editing the episodes live. So you'll learn about that for, the next episodes. So I'm probably going to start, I might start tonight, actually.
Nice.
But that'll be on there, and I'll be editing. You'll see kind of the process I go through. We could talk about the episodes. You can ask questions, all that kind of stuff. Just a way to make it less tedious for me, really. And, that's it for this episode. And I just want to let everyone know that we are done!